So today's guest on Vintage Rock Pod is a guy who's been on the go for more than 50 years. It's incredible. Performed more than 2,500 live shows in more than 80 countries and has gone gold, platinum, and multi-platinum over 200 times around the world. It's my absolute pleasure and privilege to welcome to the Vintage Rock Pod lead singer with one of the best hard rock bands of all time, the Scorpions. Welcome to the show, Klaus Meine.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me on there.
No problem at all. It's a pleasure to speak to you. Now, this may be a silly question to start with, but you see people that have one gold record or one platinum record and they have them displayed on the wall behind. Now, you have 200. Do you get a record every time you get one? And if you do, where do you put them all?
They're all over the place, and well, can't find one right now, but oh, wait a minute.
Oh, go. Oh, this is good. This is good. Oh, look at this. Wow. Beautiful gold
Yeah.
disc. Which one's that, Klaus?
Actually, this is for Virgin Killer. It's from Japan. It's like back from the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably our very first one, So, no, there are lots of gold and platinum albums around my studio here,
Brilliant.
But
it's fantastic to see.
Someplace all over the place,
Yeah. Now, the Scorpions and yourself and everything, you've sold more than 100 million records, 110, 120. Now, that puts you in the same kind of level with numbers as the likes of the Beach Boys and the Who and Prince and Guns N' Roses and Def Leppard. Now, as a group of friends from Hanover, how does that make you feel being mentioned in the company, the same company as those kind of guys?
Well, when I think about it, I remember the old days, the early days when we were starting out, being a young band starting out in West Germany, listening to the Who, the Beatles, Stones, the Kings, all those great British bands, and I mean, it's still like a thrill, and there's a place in your heart where you're still a fan, and when it comes to those bands, I had the pleasure to not only we played with the Who a couple of times, many years ago, but also recently, like a couple of years ago, I had the pleasure to give an award to Roger Daltrey. We had a nice evening out at this event. Spent some dinner time and had a chance to chat a bit. And it's wonderful. I think we played like a Who version of Can't Explain.
Yes. Yeah.
Like some years ago, and for the Make a Difference Foundation. And I think I remember we played in Royal Albert Hall and for some charity, and Roger was there. And for a sound check, we jammed Can't Explain, and he went like, "Oh, not so bad, guys. Pretty cool version." That's a huge compliment,
Yeah,
So
it makes you feel like a fan again, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you guys, you're still going strong, and you were touring with Megadeth in the US just a couple of years ago, and you've got some residency dates as well in Las Vegas that was moved from this year to next year, and you've got a nice run of dates in May, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, actually, for 2020, the plan was to record a new album. And other than that, when we came back from the tour earlier this year in March, we played Australia and Southeast Asia. And then we wanted to go to Los Angeles to record a new album with our producer, Greg Fidelman, like in May and June in LA, and then go to Las Vegas for a residency. Planet Hollywood, and those shows were the only shows planned for this year, fortunately, so we postponed those Vegas gigs, and we focused very much on writing new songs and working in the studio. And so far it's been not easy, but because of all the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's a blessing when you have a chance to go in the studio and create some new songs. And when you take a deep dive in your own creative world, you know. And so, yeah, and here we are. It's already November, and we're
Yes.
all hoping life will come back to normal, hopefully next year, and we can go back out on the road again.
Absolutely. We'll get to your new album in a second, but I just want to touch on the fact that you've released a special Wind of Change box set as well just recently to mark the 30th anniversary. Now, that's a very, very special song, isn't it? It was written and released during a time when the world was changing, and you were one of the first Western bands to perform in the Soviet bloc. And was that what inspired you to write that song and come up with that song?
Yeah, well, it was after all these years of success in the Western world throughout the 80s, you know, when we came to Soviet Union around 88, we played shows in Leningrad, and 1 year later at the Moscow Music Peace Festival. You know, it's like we could feel the changes, and the Russian kids came to us saying, hey, here's a young generation and new generation, and the time of the Cold War will be over soon. And it was so amazing to see that the Soviet Union in the late 80s, you know, it was a different place like than today. And to play there, like what later turned out to be like a Russian Woodstock, you know, with
Yeah.
all those bands from the US and England and Russia. And it was such a very, very touching moment, you know, to play 2 nights in Lenin Stadium in August 89. And a few months later, the Berlin Wall came down, you know, so the change was in the air, and we were just right in the middle of all of it.
Absolutely. And in the special box set, there's a very special version. It was the demo version that you did. It was very stripped back and very powerful. And it contains the now iconic, and there's no other word to put it, the whistle that you did. Now that was very unusual, wasn't it, for hard rock bands, metal bands at the time, whistling in the song. Where did
Yeah,
that come from?
absolutely. Absolutely. It was just, I mean, if I would be a guitar player, you know, like probably I would have come up with some cool riff or
Yep.
something on my guitar, but I was just playing around with my little piano with like a DX7, and it was just playing around with it. And this whistle, the lyrics, the melodies, everything came up just because the inspiration for that song and what we went through and what we saw between 88 in Leningrad and 1 year later in Moscow, uh, it was such a deep inspiration, you know. And I think this is the best way if you write a song and it comes from deep inside, you know. And it's not you want to write a song about uh, the Berlin Wall or anything, you know, and you walk for hours and hours, days and days to find the right hook line. So this song, it came to me, you know. And the whistle, uh, I thought it's cool because I was thinking about songs like Jealous Guy, John Lennon, you know, or Guns N' Roses, you know. There were bands they used like the whistle like a throwaway kind of thing, you know.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
with this song, I Follow the Moskva down to Gorky Park. It had this kind of vibe, you know. It just a very personal kind of thing and just a throwaway kind of feel, you know. Something like that, you know. Not too much thinking about. And of course, I I was not thinking about this could be something where later on it was a huge discussion. Is this cool or is it not? You know, and when the record company in America wanted to release that song as a single, you know, the guy called me, the A&R guy called me and said, Klaus, you know, this will be the next single in the US, but we have to take the whistle out, you know.
No way.
And I said, no way. And so, of course, we kept it in. It became also a hit in the United States and in England. And we
Yes.
missed
Yep.
the #1 slot because of Brian Adams.
Everybody missed number one because of Brian Adams at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And later on, when I met with Brian, you know, and he was like standing in front of me, was bending over and said, okay, Klaus, come on, you can kick my ass.
Brilliant. You've probably been asked a million times, but can you give us a quick blast of the whistle now?
A quick whistle.
Yes.
Oh man. It's no
Why?
big deal. I mean,
Oh, it's
it's
phenomenal.
no big deal. And I never thought this would be something where, you know, uh, it's such a big thing, you know. It's, I mean, of course, later on I realized with all the hooks inside that song, this song was a hook line in its own, you know,
Hmm.
and it
Yeah.
was a very strong. Uh, you would recognize that song immediately, you know, when the song started. And I know being in the studio uh, when we recorded the Crazy World album, it's the release was just now 30 years ago in
Yeah.
November this year. 30 years ago, we worked with Keith Olsen in the studio, and I know Rudolf and Matthias, our guitar players, they tried to come up with something cool, you know, for the intro and for those whistle parts to replace it with some cool guitar stuff, you know, but it wouldn't work out. In the end, they came back and said, you know, we feel also it is good the way it is, you
Yeah.
know, and we kept it that way. Fortunately, we did, you know.
It's iconic. It really is. If you don't mind me going back a little bit further, if that's okay. There was a time in the early 80s, maybe 1981, when you had trouble with your throat, didn't you? And you had to have a couple of surgeries on your throat. Now, as a singer of a really successful band, I mean, how did you feel at that time? Were you worried about whether you'd be able to carry on with the band or anything like that around then?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it felt like the end of the road, you know,
Hmm.
because it was really serious. I went twice for surgery on my vocal cords, and I had the feeling. I mean, we knew all the songs, you know, I knew all the vocal lines, everything, and I knew that would be quite a challenge to put the vocals on that album, you know. And uh, fortunately, when I offered the band that I would leave the Scorpions, Rudolf Schenker said, "Come on, Klaus, you do everything you can, and we wait for you until your voice is back, until you're ready to go." You know, and this was like with all the tragedy around those blackout recordings, but in the end of the day, it was such a triumph, you know. Uh, and since then, it feels like I'm on the longest encore, you know, in my life because. It was really like it was like real friendship, you know. It
Yeah.
was a triumph of friendship, and we always said the Scorpions, the longevity of the band, it's about chemistry and not only being business partners but also being friends, you know. And that moment when we recorded Blackout, it proved exactly that, you know. And it was like a friend saying, "Come on, Klaus, you don't leave right now. We wait for you until you're ready to come back into the studio and sing, put those vocals on." And I did, and I remember saying to the guys when the album was released and we went on the road. I said, "Okay, I recorded the vocals here on this album, but I have no idea if I could survive like
Hmm. A
a
big
tour
tour.
with
Yeah.
100 shows in America and all over the world." But I did, and it was great to get this second chance, you know, and it's maybe one of the reasons that the chemistry and the friendship in this band is still working, you know, and something like that. It's a very special moment. To me, it felt like this is it, and you guys look for a new singer, and life goes on, you know. But it was a special moment in my life, and here I am now celebrating 30 years of Crazy World and Wind of
Wow.
Change. And like you mentioned, the box set that we just released to celebrate that song, you know, and that moment in this that historical moment in time with a box set with some extras, you know. Actually there's a real nice book inside this box
Yes.
set.
Yeah.
It's not a booklet, it's a real book with 84 pages something. And it was written by our friend Edgar Klusener, Professor Edgar Klusener. He lives in Manchester right now, and we had quite a few interviews for this project. And so he told not only the story, the way how Wind of Change came all about, but also the political side of it, or the
Okay.
political ways that led to the coming down of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Cold War. So it's very interesting. And so here I am after all these years. And it's the greatest thing when we not only talk about the past, and go like, wow, and 30 years back and this, and blackout in 82, but to be here today in 2020, and even in
Yeah.
those very challenging times with the coronavirus, which is as bad here as it is in the UK, I guess, it's all over the place.
Hmm.
And who would have thought in our life that we have to go through something like this, such a pandemic that goes all over the world? And but we're here and we talk about new music, we talk about new songs, and the perspective into 2021, where hopefully there will be a new album out, and hopefully we can come back finally back to the UK for our fans.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Now we're talking about the new music there. You've been working through lockdown and doing Zoom meetings with producers and all that kind of stuff. And you actually released one not too long ago, "Sign of Hope," didn't you? A new single just to put out there.
Yeah, because when we came back from the last show we played was at the 5th of March in Singapore. And when we came back home, and week after week, and situation got more worse, and it was so inspiring to see so many musicians, especially young musicians that came up with their home concerts,
Hmm.
just sitting at home, picking up a guitar and playing a song or two, and I thought this was very nice, in a way, sending out like a piece of hope, and this was what inspired me to write a little song, not thinking about this is the first big single of the next album. It had nothing to do with that at all. We had many songs written actually for the new album last year,
Okay.
and we picked it up when we came back from the tour in March. But this was something different. I just wanted to create a little song, saying, okay, this is a very difficult and dark situation for all of us, and hopefully we will go through this together, and we take care of ourselves, the
Hmm.
social distancing thing, wearing a mask, and try to, there will be better times around, and we put this song out on our social networks, on Facebook, Instagram, around the end of April, early May, I think. We never did something like this before, because it's always the first single of an album.
Yes.
You count down the days, 5 days, 4 days, here's the big single. This had nothing to do with this at all. It was just putting it out on the social networks and see what happens, And it was such a strong and positive vibe from our fan base. And we have like around 7.6 million fans on Facebook alone, and a million and something on Instagram, I think. So it's not, it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Scorpions community out there, and we wanted to give it to them and beyond, of course, to whoever wants to listen to a new song of the Scorpions. And it was great to see that it started with our fans in Russia. They came back, they made a little video of Son of Hope, where they sang it. Everybody picked up a line in the song. They had a microphone, or they had like a fan scarf, or whatever it was, like a drumstick, They passed it on out of the picture to the next singer.
Yep.
So when this video came back, I thought, wow, this is fantastic. Uh, you send something out into the world, and it comes back that way, where everybody uh, uh, enjoyed to be involved, and this was so inspiring to say to the rest of the world, come on guys, give us your signs of hope, whatever it is, send those pictures, images to us, and we make a second video, a third video, and we keep going, because we want to see you in our video,
Yep.
and they did. Right now, I think before Christmas, we will release the third or fourth video of Sign of Hope for our fans, because they put so many pictures. What means Sign of Hope? Maybe their favorite dog, maybe a beautiful sunrise, a sunset, your girlfriend, your loved ones, your newborn baby.
Yeah.
Sign of hope in so many ways, a beautiful flower, whatever it is. And we try to use all those pictures and put them and release them in the videos we're making. So I think it's a beautiful thing, to communicate with the Scorpions fans and beyond, and give them something to play with, to be involved, and bring it back. And this is like a wonderful thing. So it was like not an experiment. It came straight from the heart in troubled
Yeah.
times. And what came back was so much love, and a wonderful thing to still, especially in this pandemic, to be connected with our fans. We cannot go out on the road, and we missed those Las Vegas shows, and we postponed them now to next year. And hopefully we all stay well and healthy, and we see all of you again next year. And it was also saying thank you to all the doctors, nurses,
Yep.
and everybody out there working so hard uh, to keep it all going, And this was, I was not the only one. There were many artists thinking about this. What can we do now to to give people a piece of music like soul food, for you to heal our souls in this very difficult moment.
Phenomenal. And it's great to see the fans loving what you're putting out there. So what are you going to put out there in terms of your new album then? You obviously said you've been working on some songs already. What's the feel of
Yeah,
it? Because Greg Fiedelman, who's working on, he's worked with Metallica and Sabbath and very heavy stuff.
yeah.
So will it be a heavy sound?
We went through, yes, absolutely. I mean, Sign of Hope is just a little piece of music,
Yep.
to lighten your soul. And since Mickey D joined the band in 2016, you can imagine. And when we started thinking about this album, which was actually last year in the spring of 2019, we said we wanted to make an album with lots of attitude, power, and that's was one of the reasons we picked Greg Fiedelman, who used to work with Metallica, like you said, or Slipknot, and we wanted to make a harder edged record. There might be one or two ballads on the record as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
since this is so much part of the Scorpions DNA. But the focus was really on the harder songs, the up-tempo songs, and that. And so far, it's been a good ride, and we've been working in a studio here in Hanover. We couldn't go to LA like it was planned, like in May. So we found our way into a studio here next by, which is not too far away like LA. So it's just next door, which was not so bad at all. And so the plan B turned into a plan A, months after months. And we went through lots of rehearsals for the songs. And when Mickey and Pavel came in, there were also travel restrictions. Mickey lives in Göteborg in Sweden, and Pavel in Poland, in Krakow. And there were travel restrictions, and we had to wait for the moment until the restrictions were gone and they could travel and come here. And then we had another session, and we had Greg joined us every evening, our time, and every morning, LA time, via Zoom.
Okay.
And we went through the songs, went through the arrangements and all that, and it's been working out very well so far. And right now we're on a point where we take it to the next step, where we go actually into recordings. And here, it will become more difficult when your producer is not in the same room like the band.
Yeah.
It's not so easy, but on the other side, we have to make a compromise and find ways to get the job done, because we have a lot of great songs. We're very motivated and nail them down, and
Yes.
and hopefully, this album will be out in sometime next year, hopefully in the spring. or maybe later, who knows? I mean, it's very difficult to make plans these days, you
Yes, it
know.
is. Yeah.
Uh, but once we know that we can come back to Vegas, once we know we have a chance to tour here in Europe or to tour in the US, once this plan comes together, uh, then we come closer to make a decision. Okay, then the new album should be released exactly then, you know. But nobody knows right now. All we know is we are very, very motivated. It's a lot of fun, even in this kind of very difficult situation, to work on new songs and
Mhm.
really to hopefully come up with something where our fans go, yes, you know, come on, Scorpions. And you know, with Mickey in the band, the band is in one room and we're playing all together and really like in the old days, you know,
Yeah.
and we really give it a go. And there's really some rockers, you know, and Mickey's such a great drummer, you know. It's so much fun to 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 play with him, you know. And let's go and get something done, you know. And the end of the day, hell, this is fantastic, you know. And and we use this time in the lockdown, you know. We use this time, and I work on my lyrics, you know, and go back to them and say, maybe I can say this a little better, you know, maybe I can work on this and that. And I work also right here in my own studio, you know, where I can record myself, you know, and check out things. And you know, it's right now Matthias is doing guitar overdubs, you know. So we're moving, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and that
It's all
feels
coming
really
together.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a name for the album or anything like that yet?
Yeah, there are a few ideas, but it's way too early to to say this will be the title, because with album titles it's always, you know, it's like the very last minute and
Mhm.
everybody comes with ideas, putting some ideas on the table, you know. But I think, yeah, we might have a good title, you know, but it's a little too early
It's too
to
early
talk
so far.
about songs and titles and, you know. But all I'm saying is, even if this weird pandemic situation, you know, we're excited because we planned for 2020 to make a new album. And before Corona started, we wanted to make a cut because we've been touring so much over the
Yes.
last years, over the last 10 years, you know, uh, that we went all over the world and we played every continent and you can think of, you know. And so we said, if we want to make a record, it's quite a challenge after all these years. And it's quite a challenge, but if we do it, we have to take our time, you know, and really be serious about it.
Get it
And that
right. Yeah.
means no touring in 2020. So the Vegas thing was something we wanted to do because it was 9 shows, like a residency. And we said, this will be fun, you know, will be cool to come back to the US. Uh, but fortunately, so we didn't have to cancel or to postpone too many shows this year because it was planned to focus on the record.
Incredible. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Klaus, and we look forward to hearing this new record when it's finished and you've got it all polished and exactly the way you want it.
Yeah, and we're looking very much forward to come back to the UK. I mean, Bloodstock was really cool. We really enjoyed that festival,
Hmm.
and hopefully we will back out on the road again next year. And we have many diehard and very loyal fans in the UK for many years. I mean, you're in Scotland right now. I
Yeah.
know we haven't been in Glasgow or up there for way too long. It's way too long ago, and I've only great memories, you know. Uh,
The Scottish
like
crowd would
playing
love to see you
Glasgow,
again. Yes.
playing Glasgow, like the highest stage in the world, you know, at the Apollo. And I remember we had for the encore, we had what it's called, like a piper,
Yes, yes,
like
bagpipes.
a
Yeah,
Scottish piper. What's it called? Like
the bagpipes. Yeah.
ein Dudelsack. A what? A bagpipe. A bagpipe?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, exactly. A bagpipe. You know, and so the guy joined us on stage and he played the Rose of Scotland. You
Wow.
know, and all hell
Fantastic.
broke loose, you know. Place went crazy. So many great memories.
That sounds like a Scottish
We
night,
hope we see
definitely.
all of you again next year, and stay healthy and well. You know, that's the most important thing right now.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Klaus.